Hey everyone, Coach Dan from Orangetheory Fitness. I'll be back with another video today discussing 5 common fitness myths. So the purpose of this video is not to debunk or argue 100% against these myths, but instead have a discussion and conversation about these thoughts and whether they are true and relevant and helpful towards your goals. So the first topic or myth I want to discuss is the idea of being able to reduce body fat in certain spots or areas of our body by targeting them with specific exercises. Now a lot of you have probably heard somebody say, or maybe you said it yourself, I just want to lose this bit of body fat I've got here or here or here or some specific part of your body. And we will hold body fat in different areas of our body. That could be down to differences in gender and just as individuals. We will carry body fat in specific areas. But then people often then go to think, I need to do a certain exercise to lose this body fat in this area or in this area or here. Whereas if you think about it, this is a bit counterproductive or counterintuitive to what we see in training. For example, if you go to a gym and you see somebody doing bicep exercises, I think most of us would assume that that person is actually trying to grow muscle in this area, trying to make this part of their body larger, and they're not really specifically thinking about losing body fat here. Another example you could think about is if you see somebody who loses a lot of weight, you may see that they look and appear leaner in their face, and there's less adipose tissue in their face. That doesn't mean that they spent a lot of time doing a bunch of face and mouth exercises to lose the body fat there. So those are just 2 things you can think about when it comes to this myth or thought. Instead, what we want to do really is target our whole body, strengthen all the different muscles in our body, trying to build and maintain as much lean muscle tissue on our frame as possible. And then if our goal is to reduce body fat, then be mindful of our nutrition and hopefully stay in a calorie deficit with plenty of protein and abiding by those general nutritional principles. Next up is the idea that lifting weights will make you bulky. So this is one, again, I hear quite frequently, especially it seems to be female members who worry about this more. And it's the idea that you're scared to go above the 10 or 12 pound weights for fear of suddenly bulking up and getting massive. And again, if we think about other examples in the world, there's thousands if not millions of people around the world diligently challenging themselves day in, day out, lifting heavy weights, following really strict regimens in terms of their diet and supplements and rest and everything, and they're really trying hard to gain muscle, and it's a slow process. It's not likely that you picking up the dumbbells and doing a few reps suddenly going to blow up and gain pounds and pounds of kilos of muscles on your frame. Unless you are somewhat blessed genetically and hormonally, most of us will find it relatively challenging to build muscle, and it is a slow, steady process of overloading our muscles time and time again, and slowly but surely we can build some muscle on our frame. Building this muscle is a huge benefit. It's going to help keep our metabolism higher. Having that fat-free mass on our frame, we're automatically going to go around the day burning more calories. It's going to help us build and maintain that bone density. It's going to help us get stronger, which is going to help in day-to-day activities. Maybe that's work or just things you're doing around the house. That in turn could also help reduce the likelihood of injury, and it's going to help your body fat percentage, because if more of us is muscle, then less of us is going to be body fat percentage-wise, and then we're going to appear leaner. So many benefits when it comes to resistance training and strength training that I hope that people do not avoid weights for fear of making all these huge gains in muscle that they don't want. Next up is the idea of that you have to lift heavy in order to build muscle. That if we're not lifting the heaviest possible weights, we're not going to build muscle. Where there is actually evidence to suggest that we can build muscle both with heavy, moderate, and light weights. We will struggle to build muscle with very light weights. And obviously heavy, medium, moderate, light, they're all terms that are relative to the individual and to the exercise itself. But what's more important is essentially how challenging we are making this exercise and how many stimulating reps we are getting during a set. So for example, if we are challenged to lift a weight 5 times, and if we get to that 5th rep and we could have lifted it another 7, 8, 9, 10 more times, then perhaps we could have afforded to go heavier. If we chose to lift that same weight 15 times, then it may in fact have been more stimulating, especially those last few reps. They would have been a challenge, and that's gonna make our body want to adapt, improve, and build that muscle. So it's not so much a case of you have to go heavy. It's a case of you want to challenge your body. You want to give it a challenge, a stimulus, so that later it repairs itself and you come back a bit stronger and with a bit more muscle in your frame. So don't necessarily have to go heavy, but we want to make sure that we are challenging ourselves. Next is the idea that a higher heart rate and more splats is always better. Now, some of you may have found that when you first started, you were able to get 30 or 40, or maybe even in your first session you got 50 something splat points in your session, and then you've been coming for a while and you're not getting as many. And sometimes people worry about this, is this bad? But actually we ask for 12 splat points or more out of the whole 60 minutes, and probably that sweet zone is probably somewhere between 12 to 25, 30. There may be days where we see more, or days where we struggle to get to 12. But the likelihood is, if you're not getting as many, is that your fitness has improved and your ability to recover has improved. And this really is a first world problem. We shouldn't think it's a bad thing that we are actually recovering a little bit faster. In fact, you're likely doing more, so running faster, walking at a higher incline, going harder on the rower, and in turn not feeling it as much. So your fitness has improved, and that's always going to be a good thing. So don't always think that a higher heart rate and more splat points is always more. There's always going to be another focus as well in a session, which could be working on our endurance, getting stronger, developing power. So those are other goals within the session. We don't want to make it all about our heart rate and splats all the time. Lastly, I wanted to touch on the idea of no pain, no gain. So obviously earlier I did mention the fact that we want to be challenging ourselves, and we want to be getting our muscles close to failure, or pushing ourselves on the treadmill, on a rower, bike strider. But there is the notion of no pain, no gain, in the sense that if I don't feel really sore the next day, or if I don't feel really sore in the moment, if I'm not absolutely crushing myself in the session, then I'm not going to see any improvements. And that is not necessarily the case. There's not a huge 100% correlation between soreness and improvements. In fact, that's not it may be an indication that we challenged ourselves and pushed ourselves, but we don't want to only seek that within a session. Again, there will be goals within the session that we are looking to achieve. Sometimes we want to be taking more rest, sometimes we want to be moving explosively, so we want to be a bit more recovered. And also, if we are coming into every session absolutely beaten up and crushed, then the likelihood is we're going to find it harder to push ourselves on the weight floor, on the treadmill, on the rower, and our performance in those sessions aren't going to be what they could be if we came in a little bit more recovered. So if we're constantly in pain, sore, fatigued, perhaps it's a good idea to take a rest day, or hold back a little bit, or rest a bit more in between sets. There are days when showing up in itself is a huge win. You may have had a very stressful day, you may be sore, fatigued, tired, and the fact that you simply showed up and you got through a session is a huge win. We shouldn't feel that we need to crush ourselves every time in order to be successful. So there you have it. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you want to comment or discuss on any of these, you can comment below or reach out to one of the team. We're happy to dive a little deeper if you have further questions. Have a good one, team. See you soon.